How many of you are interested in product development? Excellent. And how many of you have interest in the startups? You're in the right place there. So you're going to hear a lot of stories and Nick for how startup could be set up. Not really getting to how startup models is set up, but then inspiring stories and how people struggle to come up in different kind of situations. And those who don't have any of the interest, you will definitely like this presentation, and there's definitely some takeaways out of it. Small working agreement before I start the presentation. I'll take the questions towards the end, okay? But I'll engage you in between to add crisp observations, right? All of us come from some other experience. You might be having a lot of things to add, right? But then 2-3 crisp observations is when I stop, so that we can complete in 40 minutes. Same time, we also complete the presentation also. Any idea, anyone, as in what is this presentation is about? Huh? Okay, move on, all right. Okay, good.
Yes, sir. We have got on creating products with some X feature, and we come up with divert that to based on customer feedback or something. We divert to some feature Y or feature Z.
Yeah. Yes, quite
Other
close.
ways, how to grow more without impacting the core values.
Yeah, without impacting the core value.
Core
Yeah.
values or core
Yes,
functionalities which we have.
yes. Sometimes it is just not the core. You have to look outside also. But is that a easy proposition? Is that a right decision? When does it become right decision, right? That's where this presentation is all about. So are we going to wait?
Let's start.
Okay, let's start. All right. So welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you had a sumptuous lunch. And I can confirm that I ignored the sumptuousness somewhere. I get going for next 40 minutes, but I'm happy about it. So the topic, I think by now you connect actually, as what is it about. So let's get going. So this is the agenda here. I'll briefly be covering what is product pivoting, so that we're on the same page of understanding. We don't have interpretations, different kind of interpretation. Then what are the various pivoting stages and the key drivers? Again, very briefly. We will spend good time understanding the core and the known core area of the product and how the pivoting has been done with some use cases and supporting case studies there. All right? And then towards the end, what are the various factors that affects your product pivoting decision? Right? Couple of them. And I'll invite you to add there. And finally, we will together summarize as in what are learning here. Okay? So, what is product pivoting? And before I come to you, how about running our imagination a bit? Can we call this as pivoting? How about this? They're not even for jugaads. At least that jugaad is some makeshift workable item. Of course, that doesn't have any strategy. It doesn't have any structured approach to it. It just emerges. But we're not talking about them. What is product pivoting?
Changing the direction of the key core of the product and changing it to something else which is more useful to the users or as per the demand.
Okay, anyone
Probably
else?
make your product market fit.
Market fit? Yes? Yeah. So that's a part of it actually. Product pivoting has some other aspects also. Let's see. So every product starts with an idea, agree? That idea is a hypothesis unless proven. We start product development. At some point of time, if we have to make strategic shift from our product hypothesis, right, based on some learnings, validated learnings, so that the product can fit to the evolving need of the customer, relevant in the market, at the same time can tap any kind of opportunities to grow. That's what the product pivoting is. Okay. Now, important aspects of pivoting is validated learning, which is grounded in your months and years of research, experiences, experiments, knowledge, which go on informing your strategic choices of the product, be it about customer, be about your business model, be it about technological platform, or be about your upgrade, product upgrade. Okay, that's what the pivoting is. If you don't have that validated learning part with the strategic choices which goes on impacting the customer or your business some way, then it is not productive. Okay, this term was popularized by Eric Ries back in 2011 in his book Startup. And there he came up with this famous build, measure, learn loop when he said, and that will put some structure to the product development, that everything starts with an idea. We try to come up with MVP very quickly. We take this MVP to the customer. We have a lot of learning. With that learning, we're going making some crucial decision, whether to pursue the product or pivot the product. Okay, and this is not an easy space to be. It's a very complicated space to be. Persevering, we continue to invest our money, efforts, energy into it because we think the product is going to be successful. Pivoting is your feedback is not good, customer feedback is not good, you are making losses. Probably it is necessitating the strategic direction change. And that's where it becomes very complicated. And Eric Ries refers it as the land of living dead. Land of living dead, that you might be emboldened by your emotions and attachment to the product because you invested some time into it, that we want to continue, success is about to arrive. But your data is saying something else. So what to do actually? We have to pivot or persevere, and that's where our use cases and case studies are, because there are no easy answers. It's a very difficult space to be, very complicated decision. So let's see. Now, world is full of many pivoting stories, and those here, I want to understand that you probably have heard some another story. Anyone who has any kind of product pivoting stories? None of you? Okay, no problem. So you're going to learn a lot of stories today. Very inspiring stories, heroes, interesting story in fact. Let's get going. So let's understand the pivoting stages and key drivers before we jump into the couple of use cases that I want to present today. An organization can go for multiple pivots in its journey for the same product, and sometimes it has to jump out of the product also. 2 to 4 pivots are quite common, and they may be doing it for different reasons. It could be market shift. Your product is no longer needed. It could be because of your customer feedback. It could be because of technology advancement. Who wants to work with a legacy system in this time to market era? Right? It could be because of competitiveness also. There are many examples. Nokia lost to the Apple. Kodak lost to the Sony. Right? That's why you have to pivot as well by looking at the market, what is coming up. And it could be because of internal assessment also. Instagram used to be a location check-in app, bourbon. There are many into it. And nobody thought that the photo sharing feature will become popular with the customer. They figured it out. And they pivoted on that feature to make the whole product out there. Okay, so your internal assessment can also lead to the product pivoting. Right? So many multiple pivots with different region is a reality. Core versus non-core of the product. Core capability of the product on which the product is standing. What is the core capability of the google.com? Search engine. If I go on making some changes, small changes around that core capability, the search engine, I'll be making the changes in the core adjacency. If I pick up that search engine and go on making a mobile app out of it, and then I put the search bar behind a UI face for some customized searches, then in that case, I will be making distant adjacent changes. Far away, but then core is still there, isn't it? Your pivoting happens in this zone, core to non-core. Remember, not every change is pivoting. When do you call it pivoting? If I just change for the sake of change, would that be pivot? When does it become pivoting? Yeah, it needs to be a strategic choice, as in how it goes on impacting your business. At the same time, based on the learnings. Very simple. Okay? Non-core is outside the core. I am moving outside my core capability to come up with a new product, probably for a new market on the same market. That's where the non-core is. Now I'm going to present a couple of use cases where how people pivoted on the core capability back to back and succeeded. Then another use case that I'm going to cover up is when people move from the core to the non-core area, how they failed, under what circumstances. And the third is when they move from core to the non-core, how do they succeeded under what circumstances. And finally, there have been some companies who on the face of uncertainty was supposed to be pivoting because their competitors were pivoting, they didn't pivot. They stood with their own strengths there and they succeeded, today they exist. So what happened in these cases? And I'll invite you to add your observation as and when I stop here. So let's start with the core. Now the famous story in this core capability pivoting is ClassPass. Anyone heard this name before? ClassPass is founded by Payal Kadakia, an Indian American. Back in 2010-11, she was doing a job in New York. And that time she was looking for some Indian dance classes. Hours will go on the internet, she will not be able to find any class because so much information. It was very difficult to aggregate and choose one class. And that's where an idea came to her mind that why don't I launch one class search engine? She launched a product called Classivity. And when she launched it, people came, searched the classes, nobody will go to the classes. Now how does she earn the revenue then? And she did her first pivoting there. She pivoted to launch a program called Class Passport. When she said, I'm going to give you 30 days subscription free, come to classes based on your email. And she expected at least 70% of the people are going to come back to me. But only 15% people came. Any idea what happened? People change the email ID. Any smart will do, right? Not my fault. The business model is like this, right? 30 days to 60 days to 90 days, 120 days. But she had a good news. Good news was people are coming to the classes, attending the classes. And this was the time for us to pivot, to come up with a new product. So she made the changes in the Classivity and she relaunched it as ClassPass. She made it paid subscription based. Today it is in 20 countries with 66,000 businesses all. Okay. Trip case. Anyone heard this name?
I know that mic is banned.
No? Not much. Okay. Tripcase is pivoted on its core capability, cyber reservation system, which is one of the oldest American airline reservation system, developed by American Airlines and IBM. 2000, they separated out to have a separate company, Cyber Holding, and they've been doing their own experiments and pivoting. One of the famous pivot they had is about Tripcase. So if you have a reservation on cyber reservation system, you can manage your end-to-end business trip using this app. You can add hotels, cruises, and cars, etc. And not only that, they connected this to your wearables also. Your flight alerts will come on your watches right away. Okay? Oh, PayPal. Okay, let's look at the TripAdvisor. PayPal and Akamai are again two examples in the same range. When PayPal used to be a PDA basically, where you can beam the payments and you can make the payments basically. But then later they realized that internet has come up. Not everybody holds the devices. So why don't we use the email to make the payment? That's why they pivoted on that. But then again, the core capability was payment in those cases. Akamai I am going to cover later. Let's talk about the TripAdvisor here. TripAdvisor, everybody knows. Do you know its history as in how it created? TripAdvisor back in 2000 uh, had a huge database of travel information. They created search engine out of a product which they were trying to sell to the companies like Expedia and Travelocity. A B2B model. Sale. But interestingly, their demo site, tripadvisor.com, started picking the traction where they used to demonstrate the capability of the search engine by comparing the hotels and displaying various other information. That was the moment they realized that it's not B2B, it's B2C which is going to work for us. They pivoted on the demo site which was based on their core capability, and that went on to become a product in itself. Within this year, January, 162 million in a single month is the kind of users it has, people visiting it. Slack, we know. Slack is an interesting story again. Slack used to be a communication tool which the developers were using to coordinate and develop a product called Glitch, software game basically. That Glitch didn't work, game didn't work. But they realized a lot of potential in this tool. It was actually part of that product suite itself, but since it was working well, they say, why don't we take it to the corporates? Let them use this as a communication channel because we are already using it across the countries. They did pivot, and within 1 year, it had $1 billion valuation. Interesting? The observation here. Anyone else who wants to add something? I didn't come to the non-core. It is still core. This is all core.
Yeah, it means you need to have a close eye with your whatever is happening, and you need to make a call according to that.
Okay, let's see. So in this case, the best thing was that they believed in their core vision. They stuck to their core capability. They continue pivoting one after another. Find the right product fit. Right? In some cases, they integrated it to the third party to enhance the functionality. Some cases, the one feature went on to become the full product. They say in that Instagram and Slack. Okay? Okay, move to the next one then. Go to the non-core. Now, this is a use case where the core was well established, but for some time, it was not doing a good business. Instead of strengthening the core, move to the non-core area. What happened? Lego. Back in 2003, 2004, Lego was into that Lego brick business. Lego brick, everybody knows. We use a lot of agile workshop, right? That Lego brick is their core product. So because they were suffering the losses, what they did, at that time, 2003-4 was also the time the internet was booming, right? A lot of websites were coming. They said, why don't we pivot to come up with a gaming website, interactive game website, video game with the console. They even clothing also. Flop. CEO had to step down, new CEO came. He focused on the core capability that is Lego brick and thought, how do I launch it more meaningfully? They launched new themes. Castle, space, city resonated very well with the customer. They got on the new markets, India, China. They targeted the segment adults. They rebounded to be where they are today. Danjo, my personal favorite. Danjo is an Indian startup based out of Bangalore. You know Danjo? What is their business? Hyper local delivery, basically. You put a message to them, I need this from this place, they will go to the pickup and deliver it to you. But they started in the losses from the beginning itself. because of the low margin, because of the loans that they had taken, because of salary that they had to pay and all the expenses. Gradually, they were coming out of it. And it was sure that steadily and gradually they will be out of it. But 2021, they made a decision. And the decision was to get into the quick commerce space by launching a product called Danjo Daily app. Anyone seen that? But Danjo Daily was, the quick commerce is not about picking and shifting, pick and drop. It requires warehouses to be created all over the country. You need to pay the delivery boys also. They need to deliver in a couple of minutes, isn't it? It already had some competitors there, like your Big Basket and Blinkit and a couple of them others. They were working on the low margin already. And for that, Danjo raised 200 million loans with the Reliance to create those warehouses and expenses, meet those expenses. Reliance had a veto. Whatever the decision, they had to Reliance. Competition was high, margin was low, they tanked, they returned to the hyperlocal delivery. 2 days back, my wife came home. She said, I forgot my spec, can you deliver it? I said, 10:30 in the morning, who will go and deliver it to you? That's why the Danjo came to my rescue. So I love this guy. All right, Ask Me Bazaar. Ask Me Bazaar was doing a fantastic job back in 2012-13. That time you won't have many websites. So what they did, they onboarded 15 million small and medium enterprises to their platform, saying that they want to do the e-commerce business to you. And they started also. But instead of focusing on that e-commerce business for which they have onboarded these many enterprises, they literally got into everything. Ask me fintech, ask me payment, ask me classified, ask me grocery. They hired the stars like Kangana Ranaut and Ranbir Kapoor. Nothing worked. It tanked. They don't exist actually. They're out of business. Partly their the failure is contributed to their parent company also, Get It, which had a lot of say into it because of the fund it has invested. 2008 onwards, again it was struggling with their computer peripherals business. That is their core product, right? Mouse and keyboards and webcam, etc. At that time, smart TV and smartphones were coming up. So their CEO decided that we need to be getting into that business. So they ventured with Google to come up with a product called Google TV product, a setup box, which was governed by the Google software. But it didn't work with the customer. It tanked. They had to. The CEO, in fact, was fired. New CEO came, and he got into that computer peripherals business again and become more innovative in that space to survive actually. So what are we learning here? Your core, if it is well established, focus on the core. Yeah, we will talk about it. Additional example, I'll come to you. Okay, let me complete it because we are short of time. So they lost their trust in the core product. They distracted from their vision. The investors control their business, right? And that's why they lost. They were in some cases out, in some cases they were able to come back, right? So you need to monitor your investors also. Non-core successes. That is, if in this case the core was doing good, and but for some reason it was losing to the customers because the customers' product was doing bad. So this was not a case of I don't trust my core. My core is going because something else has come up. In some cases, the non-core area suddenly proved to be more profitable. Let's see some of the case study. Gigya. Anybody heard? Gigya used to provide the widgets for first generation social networking sites. Friendster, MySpace, Orkut. Anybody been on Orkut before? Right? More of a dating site than any social networking, isn't it? So that time, these sites were based on the HTML based site, they were not Flash based. So they were not attractive. We will use the widgets to make it look attractive. Okay? That widget was like calendar, date, smiling faces, etc. Gigya was in that business actually. And so much that they were partnering with Adobe to distribute the widget all over the world. Facebook came up Widget business gone, and then they had to pivot on something called social login, which was an interface when you would have the users from Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and they started selling that interface to the large enterprises that will onboard these users to your business, and you can do the business. But they succeeded. Twitter, it used to be audio, a podcast-based company. Subscribe to the podcast, listen to the podcast, create the podcast. But Apple iTunes started coming, they tanked, and then they decided to get into something called social stresses update using tweets. Twitter was born. So this was also a non-core area, core to the non-core. Wrigley. Wrigley used to sell soap. And side by side, they will give you chewing-gums free. The chewing-gums got popular, and they realized it. They said, okay, now it's time to pivot on this chewing-gum business. They packaged it differently, with different kind of chewing-gums. They sold it to different markets. They created that distribution channel. After some experiment, they figured out this is the business to go. Today, they are one of the best, what we call candy and chewing-gum company in the world. Fab. Fab used to be Fabulous, a social networking site for gay community. And it was doing a good business, but Facebook again hit them hard. People started leaving that website to come to the Facebook. They had to pivot to something called fab.com, which was into daily deals. Your designer clothes, hand-picked items at a much, much cheaper rate than the market. Done a fantastic business. Right? And by the way, Fab used to have the only store in India that was in Pune only. For information. And they closed, Pune store also closed. So what are we learning here? They sensed the threat. They saw some opportunity. They experimented. They took the risk. They didn't have any choice, right? Because their core was going actually. Though they did trust, there is no reason to stay back. They worked in parallel to the new product. They changed their vision. They revised their strategy. Right? Any other observation here which I missed? What else happened here? Yeah, that's why they were. Correct. Let's see. The last case and the final one. This is very interesting, in fact, that these companies, on the face of uncertainty like COVID, precisely, their competitors were losing their business. They were pivoting to another product, another business, moving out. They were making rash decision by laying off the people, cutting the cost. They didn't do that. They in fact figured out that in COVID, our business is not going anywhere based on some patterns. They stuck to their core business. How did they do it? These are the three companies. Right, the first one is Travel Park, which is based out of Barcelona. They were in the corporate travel business. X24 is a home furniture startup. They figured out that in the COVID, people are going to do more home furnishing and gardening because they're going to stay home. Industry is into streamlining your daily operations of the rental company. So if you are a small rental company, you can outsource your operations to this company, take care of all your operations. Right? They will streamline and automate. What worked in their case? Unlike their competitors, they slow down in the uncertainty. Right? They didn't cut the cost front. They didn't lay off the people. That way they conserve their resources. The benefit that when their competitors were losing their customers, they were able to onboard them to increase their business base. Moreover, they listened to the customers. They looked at the patterns, what is happening in the industry in the face of COVID. And not only that, my observation maybe is not the right observation. So why don't I go and validate my observations by looking at the different patterns in the industry. What is happening in the car industry? What is happening in the airline industry? What is happening in the retail industry? So they started seeing that in the totality, what we call systems thinking. Right? And instead of laying off the people, they cut the cost, cut the salary and cut the additional cost. So that's how they were able to manage their cost also. And one more thing that they did was they tested themselves for the weaknesses. That is, okay, I don't want to get complacent because I see that the patterns are in favor. I need to test that can I do the business in this highly disruptive time. So did the fire drill and several other kind of activities to find the loopholes, and they fixed it. That's how they survived it. Any comments? Anyone? Yeah, Zoom and all that, in some cases they didn't have the Zoom, so they fixed it. So whatever they could find, they really found the gap and fixed it. Zoom was anyway the survivor for all of us. Zoom survived it. Zoom survived and Zoom make us survive. All right. So here are the factors basically. What are the factors which goes on affecting your product pivoting decisions? The number one factor is your owner's interest and influence. While Kadakia, the ClassPass CEO, not only came up with an idea, she led it from the front. Right? The Logitech CEO, who came up with an idea of Google TV product, he couldn't influence his customer, he couldn't lead it to the success, it was fine. Technology. So one of the examples in the beginning came up was Akamai. Akamai used to be in the content delivery network. Back in 1998, they would have number of servers in many countries just to provide you faster internet. That way they already had a data store all over the world well before the cloud came. When the cloud came, they had everything ready. Data stores and networks. It was very natural for them to go to the cloud computing. From cloud computing, they went to the cloud security, cyber security, and from there they become the cyber security giant everywhere. Now, it's just not about the change in your product. Okay, it is the overall change that you have to make in a whole ecosystem. So I make a change in the product, about my market, about my sales, about my support system, about my architecture, infrastructure, about my business model. We need to make the changes in the whole ecosystem to make it a sustainable business with a long-term view. Market conditions, of course. Taken a couple of examples there. Revenue. Is revenue important for product to survive? Right? Initially, prepare to be non-profitable. Have sufficient funds and cash behind you so that you can pay the bills and stay non-profitable. But again, this balance. How long you can stay non-profitable? You have to draw that boundary actually. Right? Investors. Pay attention to investors. How much, not only the fund, how much control they have in your decision making. Right? Danjo couldn't do much actually because they wanted to do something else actually, but the Reliance is the veto actually. Couldn't do much. Of course, cash and finance. Anything else that you want to add here? What is this? Yes. Vision to another company. Like Fabulous did that. Fabulous over its website fab.com, which is survived by doing that. This is a good point. Very good point, in fact. Anything else? Any other thing that you want to add from your experience? Yes, yes. Very good point. Your regulatory environment, your compliance may affect your product development. Therefore, the pivoting. What else? Okay. So with all this, we'll probably summarize now, and then we'll take questions towards the end. Can there be a single short strategy for successful product pivoting? Yes, no. Huh? Cannot be, right? It's a very complicated space to be, very difficult decisions, better placed with CEOs or the marketing gurus. Right? But we can definitely look at the patterns from all these use cases in the case. Keep it back of our mind, stay informed, and take decisions accordingly. So there is a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert is that don't take these product pivoting stories too seriously to your personal life. This is a cartoon published in New York Times, and this lady is telling to her boyfriend, I'm not leaving you, pivoting to another man. What is it doing? Hold the core. And all right, so be aware. Now, what are we learning actually? Don't assume, don't rush, agree? Experiment, validate, collect data, see patterns. Very simple things, but makes a lot of sense. And I'll come back to you to add, okay, in the remaining time. Change doesn't mean pivot. Be careful. Not every change is a pivot. Every time you don't have the pivot as well, right? We've seen those 3 case studies. Multiple pivots are common. Pivot is not a silver bullet either. Long-term view. Don't ignore the scalability aspect of your product pivoting. It doesn't happen in silo. Act decisively. Take risks, go after it. Gigya, Twitter, these companies got into a new area, but they took the calculated risk. Once they decided, they got into it, they didn't look back. Don't leave the core. Look at the core. What is the condition of your core? If your core need to be strengthened, strengthen it first. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. You will lose the core also, non-core also. Right? And also, if you are moving to the non-core area, don't leave the core as it is. Keep working in this. Keep, what do you say, fighting hard to be in that space. We are completely out. And of course, finance and revenue. Very important. There is a fine balance between them. How long you want to be in losses actually? How much cash you have. ClassPass has an interesting case that though they were failing, they had a huge revenue, huge, cash reserve. They were getting a lot of funding for their initiative. People like the idea. But revenue was not working. So this lady kept pivoting one after another. In fact, they did 3-4 pivots. But from the second pivot itself, they start becoming profitable. All right? So, time for question and time for anything else that is in your mind you want to add here. This is about learning together, isn't it? Yeah.
You mentioned about change in the strategy for the company when you do a pivoting. So does it mean that the vision, mission statement, everything like goes for a change completely?
It could be that your vision is there, but your strategy is changing. Like in the case of Core, they didn't change their vision. I want to be in Lego business, right? But then I want to make changes in my product by changing the strategy so that I can have better customer proposition, can have increase my sales growth. So what is the idea basically? What do you want to change for what reason basically? That's a strategic choice. I may be sticking to my core vision.
Okay.
Strategy change doesn't mean the change in the vision.
Okay. And another thing is diversification. Like pivot is also synonymous with diversification.
No. Again, diversification could be a simple change. The pivot can happen in the diversified area also, as long as it is strategic on your learnings. That's all. People experimented, you might have seen actually. Before they got into that new space, they experimented, they learned, and then only they got into that space. Yeah.
On the diversification part, like what I read was Kellogg's was, for example, not very successful in India, right? Because Indians were very, obviously they had the mindset of eating hot breakfast. So obviously Kellogg's failed miserably. So then Kellogg's came up with this, product diversification and market research. And they came up with the cold milk and the chocos. They came into picture.
Yeah.
So here, don't you think that diversification came into picture?
Yeah, diversification came into picture, but then this was very strategic. Looking at the market, that probably market need these things. It is not there, so why don't we get into it? There should be some reason behind it. Should be some strategy behind it.
Yeah.
Okay. So diversification most of the time could be your pivoting decisions also, but you need to see where it is coming from. Actually, is it a simple change, random experiment, or is it really based on your learnings and research? They might have done some market research.
Okay, my question on
It was a very good
pivots.
example of core to the non-core success. Yeah.
Right. My question on the multiple pivots. So in a lifespan of a company, right? Let's say 10, 20 years of lifespan a company is having at this moment. So how multiple pivots doesn't kind of dilute the objective of it? The customer will be in dilemma. I don't know what they are doing now. So how many pivots one company can have or should have so that they will not kind of lose their name as well?
Sometime it could be. That's why people fail. Ego fail, right? They're doing frequent pivoting. They got into clothing. They had an interactive game website. They got into video conferencing also. They forgot their Lego brick behind. Now your Lego brick is only in the physical space. Online you're doing several other things. There is no connect between that. People are confused which business you are into actually.
Correct. So every
So they
year
fail
you
actually.
cannot change your business.
Yeah.
So in case of Nokia and Kodak, can we say that they stuck to their core
Yes.
business, but they didn't understand that core
That
became
is a
obsolete,
third case study. They were losing their core actually. They didn't pivot to non-core area.
right? But
That
their
is smart.
core itself became obsolete, and they didn't.
Yeah, that is the third case actually. They should have pivoted to the touch screen and all those kind of things by sensing what is coming by the company. Or maybe something different, who knows? They would have done something different, this touch screen would have been there. They didn't do anything actually. They were so complacent of their business and whatever they're doing actually.
I would have to interrupt everyone
Yeah,
here.
sure.
Yeah, sorry to cut, but we are already overrunning. And I think utilize the tea break to, connect with Ajit and have some more discussion around the topic. Before that, again, let's give a big round of applause for Ajit. I would request Rahul to please come forward and felicitate Ajit.
Thank you everyone. Thanks for your patience. Yeah, Rahul. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul, and thank you, Ajit, once again for the wonderful session. It was quite engaging. Moving on to our next session, which is by Adarsh Srivastav on AI ethics, why it matters. It will start at 2:50, so we still have 4 minutes to go.